Hey, how about them tops, son?
All day, SEC boys. SEC, they supposed to be SEC. Crazy all day, baby.
You're listening to the Red Out Podcast.
Welcome in to another Red Out Podcast. I'm Jake.
Hey, we got Devin in the house. We also have J-Dog, Jared, and we also got long time no see, Matt McCay. How's it going, Matt?
What's up, cuz?
Not much, cuz. We are the longest running WKU podcast, and just want to let y'all know, like, subscribe, share, do all that good stuff. Support us any way you can, because we're doing this out of the love for WKU. So, winners and losers this week. I got a goofball odd news website I just pulled up, and with the hurricane, there's a lot of news, hurricane related. One lady has a manatee in her front yard in Florida.
That doesn't sound like a problem, though.
I think the manatee loses in that situation because he's lost. And then let's see. There's a catfish swimming on somebody on a road. Literally, it's like in the little drainage ditch there. So, loser, anybody in the path of Dorian. As slow as that thing's moving.
Yeah.
Winner, Ezekiel Elliott. Losers, Cowboys fans. I'm sorry. I think he's good. He's probably the best thing on that team, but I just don't. I don't know if he's worth $90 million. Well, do y'all have any winners and losers?
I do.
Jake, what do you got, buddy?
Okay, so my loser, as it feels like it is almost every time that those guys from Yahoo write a story, is U of L.
Woo!
It came out today that maybe it was yesterday. I stuff mixed up, but
Yeah, Labor Day does that to you.
Yeah, right. I swear to God. So there's a certain, like, we're allowed to wear jeans, like this promotional stuff, as long as you wear like a certain, t-shirt on Monday. And Tuesday I came in and I was like, yep, jeans and a t-shirt. It's Monday. Here we go. And everybody else is like in polos and khakis, like business cash. And I'm like, oh. But it was okay because I wasn't the only one. There were like other dummies who had also done that. And like the VP of retail had also done it. It's like, okay, he planned to do it. But surely he knew it was Tuesday. But
awesome.
Anyways, they announced that the NCAA is not going to be able to get a hold of the evidence that the FBI got a hold of that wasn't presented in court. So you might be thinking, oh, Jake, that means that's good things for schools that were caught cheating. Yeah, except for all of Louisville's stuff came out during the trial, which is completely discoverable and public. So if it didn't come out in the trial, you're not going to have it.
Yeah.
So Arizona, any other shady, like Oregon, Auburn, any other shady stuff that's happened everywhere else that the FBI totally has evidence of, whether it was from the wiretaps or whatever, none of that's going to get given to the NCAA.
So basically what you're saying is Louisville is going to get it.
Yeah, Louisville's going to get eat because they got to do something. And they're the only ones that they have any evidence on, so they're just going to pound them. Which leads me into my winner, literally everybody else, because y'all can just pay players and do whatever you want to do, because the NCAA is not going to do anything, because they can't get the evidence.
Did you just rip one, Matt?
No, that was the chair. At least I'm going to blame it on the chair.
the old chair.
I'm sure it was.
Yeah, so Matt.
I do feel better, though.
Matt is coming through at 100. He's doing great. And so I can hear him mouth breathing. It's all great.
Are you sure? I'm sorry, man.
No, you're good.
I'll hold my breath for the next hour.
Yeah, we'll see. No, it's all good. I know you're not used to coming on, so it's fine. Jared over here, he's the radio professional, so it's fine.
Not really.
Jared, you got any?
I just pretend to know what I'm talking about. But my loser is that, I mean, we're obviously going to state the obvious about what happened on Thursday here in just a little bit. But just looking at everything as a whole, the loser I would choose for this week is any team that I cheer for, because I feel like I am a curse. Because if you look at Western, if you look at the Miami Dolphins, you look at the Indiana Pacers, let's see, some of them are looking better than others. Like Western basketball, the Pacers don't look too bad. Like the basketball side of things, but football, I'm just going to be depressed until about February, so y'all pray for me.
Yeah, that's fine. Of course, you should be used to that. I mean, as far as Miami goes.
Yeah, at least I am kind of prepared for that. I've embraced the tanking at this point.
And you're young enough. I don't know if the Dolphins have actually been good since you've been alive.
The Dolphins have gone to the playoffs twice since I've been a fan.
Cool. Okay. Of course, you
I love
know.
that. Cool.
Both of them were first-round exits, too.
No, what I was thinking, I was like, well, like Dan Marino is the only reason I would think of someone being a Dolphins fan. No offense, but I was like, then I was sitting here thinking, and I'm like, he would be way too young for Dan Marino, though.
Yeah, I started to become a Dolphins fan in like 2004, around there.
Okay, yeah, I don't know of anybody
Like
good
what,
in that time period.
Tannehill.
There was
just
some good
get it
teams
going
back
for you?
The only one I can think of is like Lamar
Ricky
Miller.
Williams. He's
Ricky
still
Williams.
my favorite pro player of all time.
Oh my gosh.
Love that guy. He was the one that got high and forgot he wasn't supposed to get high. Now he's like a big advocate for legal marijuana. It's hilarious.
I was going to say there was some controversy with him, but now that you say that, I remember that. Matt, do you have any winners and losers?
Yeah, I had the Western soccer and volleyball team as the winners. They were the soccer team especially started out really well. In regular season, they've only given up 3 goals in 4 games.
Awesome.
And then if you include their exhibitions, they've only given up 4 goals in 7. So last year they were pretty below average. And this year they really do look like they're a pretty decent team.
That's good. That's awesome.
And then losers, I actually had a few because I didn't know if y'all would pick any of these or whatever. But I had Tennessee Vols.
Oh my gosh, yes. How could I forget?
against Georgia State. And then I had the 2 former Western coaches, Brom losing at Nevada and Willie T losing against Boise State. So pretty embarrassing losses for all 3 of those.
Well, the Boise State thing's a little understandable because they weren't hydrated, so...
Yeah.
But Willie's about to get fired over it, so...
Yeah, you're probably right.
It's not good for him.
Fired over Powerade.
Yes. And how could I forget the Tennessee loss? Which, by the way, it tickles me to no end. Growing up on the northern border of Tennessee, like half the school in Allen County was Tennessee fans, or at least a quarter. And so,
it's all over Allen County.
Back in the day, a lot of people cheered for Tennessee, and Tennessee used to be good, believe it or not.
Back before I was born.
For those of you younger listeners.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah. Before Jared was born, they were good. They had Peyton Manning, stuff like that. But
how old were you when they won the national championship, Jared? It was '98, I think.
That would be like -4.
That's like 5, maybe.
35. Okay.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
I mean, I can't.
You should be able to remember that.
I was 7.
Really?
I don't know. Yeah, Tennessee, I don't really keep up with them. I just have a natural hatred for them. I think most people that grow up in Kentucky do, but, I mean, it is what it is.
True that.
I have a little soft spot for them. I grew up in Nashville, so I was a bandwagon.
And shout out to Georgia State's head coach for saying that their win at Tennessee was their number 2 win in program history, and their number 1 was beating Western Kentucky in that bowl game a couple of years ago.
Yeah, seriously, that was.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that was miserable. It was when he said that, I was like, ugh.
I'm like, oh, good.
I tried to forget that happened, and I remembered, and I'm extremely disappointed.
Yeah, I think we all tried to forget that. That awful loss. Speaking of losses, we as we've been joking about all offseason, getting ready to play the Purple Bears. The Purple Bears were the only ones not to choke the other night. That would be Western. Yeah. And what is a purple big red? That's Grimace from McDonald's, just in case you're wondering. So Western lost 35-28. to the Central Arkansas Purple Bears.
Didn't they announce them as the Candy Bears during pregame? Did anybody catch that?
I caught that.
I was like, what is that? I didn't even know that existed, but apparently they're also the Candy Bears.
Nice.
So just throwing that out there.
That is
That makes
Candy
it even
Bears.
worse.
Yeah, that makes the loss even worse. I agree. I mean, losing to an FCS team is bad enough, but the Candy Bears... I don't know. The Care Bears could make it worse.
Yeah, it could be worse.
I was going to say, Jared probably has no idea what that is, so it's fine.
The Teletubbies.
Some highlights and some good things I was actually happy to see. I think the biggest thing would be Gage Walker.
Yeah.
Which I was completely surprised with. First possession, first play, handoff to Gage Walker, and boom, just goes flying. I mean, that was exciting for me. And of course, Matt has been talking it up all offseason, but the offensive line did awesome too, I think. I'll eat crow. They did a great job. I was really happy with the offensive line. I think they did great. The running backs did pretty good. I just wish that Helton would have put Gage Walker back in the second half, unless there's some other issue going on. Hey, it was. I think as far as I'm concerned, that was pretty good for me. Jake, what were your highlights coming off the game?
Yeah, so it was really good to watch an offense actually work. And God, that sounds like so sad and depressing. Like, I'm not even trying to be snarky, right? Like, all the snark has been just, run out of me by the sadness of this last week. But, like, I'm sitting there watching it going, oh, okay, they have a plan. And they're good plan. And look, Duncan's hitting some underneath passes. Okay, very cool. And holy crap, we have a running back, which, by the way, why was he at corner again?
I don't know. I don't know if that's the position he came in as, or if that's where Sanford stuck him.
See, I thought that. So it's my understanding that he was recruited out of high school to be a running back, but then they needed bodies in the secondary, and he was fast. So they were like, "Yeah, go fast." Which just, again, another highlight is to show you that it is incredible. Again, we lost to an FCS school. Do not get it twisted. We sucked. It was a sad day.
Yes, it was.
To see almost an immediate turnaround and what you talked about, the last 2.5 years, which is play smart football, watching that for the most part happen. I mean, there's always going to be coaching. There's calls here and there where you're like, okay, yeah, maybe you need to trust your quarterback more, maybe you need to trust him less, whatever. But seeing the offense actually click and look like they had a plan instead of just flailing everywhere was good. Got to give Matt props because the offensive line did look better. They looked like a unit actually instead of just a bunch of dudes out there playing grab ass. So that was really good to see. And defensive line. I mean, again, I know we're talking about an FBS line. I know, actually playing conference teams or real teams see what happens. But they came out and I know they kind of got gassed in the second half, or not even second half, in the fourth quarter, but they still looked really good for most of the game, and that's really promising. Mm-hmm. That's what I got.
I definitely
made me
agree.
happy. Oh, and the punter.
Yes, he's Australian.
Punter.
Let's go.
Yeah, Australian rugby boy. Yeah, that 74-year-old punter. Hell yeah.
I completely enjoyed the punter. I mean, it was great. I loved it. So for our Aussie listeners, right. So, Jared, what would be your highlights? What did you think, buddy?
Highlights, kind of echoing what he said, is that the offense looked a lot better. And it also had the flashes of when Braum was still around, too. You saw the motion with the wide receivers. You saw a lot of pre-snap motion, which was kind of that offense that we would expect from Helton. Of course, he ran a couple of trick plays, too. One of them almost turned out good, but it was an incomplete pass, and then another one got blown up in the secondary. But, stuff like that's going to happen. I mean, this first game, this is the first time. I mean, he still has all the same players from a team that went 3-9 last season. He's the first-year head coach. You mesh those things kind of together. I understand how a loss like that happens on Thursday. Obviously, you don't want it, and, I mean, it's still kind of the same thing that we saw last year is that we would get a decent lead and then blow it in the second half, which, I mean, obviously sucks. But I will say that halfback pass that Central Arkansas had, I mean, that got everybody off guard. I wasn't expecting it. Of course, the defense wasn't expecting it. There wasn't anyone within, like, 15 yards of the guy that caught that. And that was just a perfectly timed play, and it definitely paid off for them big time. I mean, if they wouldn't have got a touchdown off of that, it could have definitely been a different game. I mean, it's just mostly defensive things that I see being an issue. Hopefully with the secondary, they can get that worked out for the FIU game this Saturday. But overall, I liked seeing the offense, the way that it was working. Would like to see a little more consistency out of Duncan, but I'm hoping he can get in a rhythm, hopefully on the road this weekend. So we'll see how that works out.
I agree with that. I will say the only person that wasn't fooled was the cameraman for ESPN Plus.
Really?
Yeah, he had that. Most of the time they had it pretty zoomed in as far as everything goes. But that for that play, man, he was pulled back and he was ready for it. And I was like, ugh. Most of the night, I feel like our DBs bit on the play action. But I'll talk about that here in just a second. Matt, I'm not going to let you hit your highlights. I'm going to let you hit your grades. What'd you think, buddy?
Yeah. So kind of what y'all were saying. I mean, there were some definitely positive outcomes, not necessarily outcomes, but there were some positive signs. I was going through some of the things, and what really, to me, what the ultimate decider of the game really was the turnovers. And missing out on some fourth downs, just some big time moments, and then obviously the defense getting shred in the red zone, and obviously on the jump balls and stuff. That was really your difference in the game to me. They kind of capitalized on some things and we didn't. We had, if you count turnovers on downs, we had, I believe we had 5. And if you count the field goal, that's another one. So that's 6 times that we handed them the ball with momentum, whether it's a true pickoff or, it's missing on a short fourth down. We had three fourth downs. None of them were more than 4th and 5, and we couldn't get one of them. And then, honestly, Duncan probably could have had – my dad and I were talking about it. He probably could have had 3 or 4 more interceptions.
Yeah.
And he got a little lucky. So it potentially could have been worse, but ultimately he threw for over 300 yards, only had 2 interceptions. So there were some positives there. But to me, that was what the biggest issue was. And I didn't expect it. I honestly thought there would be some other things that would make the difference. But I thought the defensive line was really impressive. I think we all knew that they were supposed to be pretty good, but honestly, we held UCA to the least amount of rushing yards allowed by any topper team in 3 years.
That's good, yeah.
By a significant amount. It was only 20 rushing yards the whole game. That's pretty much single-handedly done by the defensive line. I know we missed Eli Brown and Ben Holt at linebacker.
Definitely.
Because I think if either one of those were there, I think there would have at least been a linebacker presence. Maybe the passing game would have been a little better. But I don't think the linebackers really showed up. So that was some of my grades. Definitely running back was awesome. And the tight end, Joshua Simon, was awesome to come in as a true freshman, come in and get 50-something yards. It was great to see.
And I will say,
he's seriously. I mean, he's got all the tools to be the next really good
Deion
really
Yelder.
Good tight end.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I will say, he saved Duncan's butt a couple times out there. Especially
the tip pass.
The tip pass was the biggest one. He saved Duncan right there because that would have been 3 interceptions right there if it wasn't for him. And he actually saved that. And what did he get? Like 20 yards on that pass or something? I don't know. It
was longer than that. I think it was close to 40.
I was gonna say it was a big pass, but Josh Simon was a big standout for me. and I'll go ahead and do a little plug here. For Matt's full article and his grades, go to Towrac. What is that? You get your own Facebook, and is the website Towrac, WKUTowrac.com, or what is that?
It is, what is it, the TowracWKU.com?
Is that right,
Yeah,
Jared?
should be.
Okay. So check out the full article there. You may agree, you may disagree, but that's fine. Just throw it out there and let Matt tell you how you're wrong. I'll
argue with you if you want.
I will agree. The D-line did an amazing job, and I think their exceptional play helped the linebackers a little bit. But the DBs I think they bid on a lot of play action, and it was kind of frustrating. But, it's all part of it. I think the low for me would have to be the DB play. And I think a lot of people were complaining about that. And of course, I'll give them a little bit because I think Braylon Smith is a really good quarterback. I think he is he's a diamond in the rough, so to speak, because he threw for 324 yards. And he was 20 of 28. So, 3 touchdowns all on him. So, he just picked them apart as far as I'm concerned. And for me as a Western fan, I'm concerned going into FIU, but I'll let y'all go on your tangents. Jared, what do you think was the biggest low this past week, buddy?
Yeah, to me, it was probably the quarterback play and the secondary. Duncan obviously looked pretty good. He still had a decent amount of passing yards, too. But, it's like you said earlier, he got lucky with a lot of different passes that were tipped down that could have been intercepted. But, yeah, I remember there was one play in particular with the secondary that the quarterback for UCA, he was rolling out, and he had a receiver kind of going towards the sideline and everything. And he's running like a flat. And he had the option of either throwing it to him or running the ball, and the receiver that was with the receiver thought that the quarterback was going to run instead of staying with his guy. And as soon as he left to go after the quarterback, he hit that receiver and got like 20-something yards out of it, which has in the fourth quarter too, and that was definitely one that you don't want to bite on. But, it's just small stuff like that, just nitpicky things. But, it's still the first game of the season. There's still a lot of young players, new system. I get that, but it was still equally as frustrating to watch as the main game was last year. And definitely, I think it was a little more painful because we have such high expectations that, Hilton's going to do so much better. We're not going to get beat by FCS school this year. And even though I do think a lot of the coaching things were done a lot better, there wasn't anything stupid like going for it on your own 20-yard line on fourth down, like any of that kind of stuff.
In a tie game, don't forget the tie game part.
Yeah, like once
Still
UCA got the
that.
momentum in the fourth quarter, it was over. Like once they got that halfback pass and tied the game, I thought it was done. I was like, there's no way we're going to be able to get this one because, you could just feel the air out of the building at that point. Like all of the momentum Western had was lost, and like UCA came in with a chip on their shoulder and they wanted to come out and win that game, and they worked for it and they got it. And that's something I want to see our guys have too. They need to play with the chip on their shoulder. They need to play like they want to try to win this game instead of just kind of peter out and not do anything and pee on your leg the second half, as Jake says.
I agree with that. The only thing I'll kind of disagree with you on is I feel like one of the D linemen or defensive end or even outside linebacker in the play that you specified should have had what's called primary contain on the quarterback. And so their job is basically just to keep him inside so he can't roll out like that. And when it's basically a corner or a free safety or whoever it was at that time is out there covering a receiver and the quarterback, basically they have to make a decision whether to stay with their guy and let him run free or, run for or take the quarterback.
Well, there was somebody else that was around the area too that was going towards the quarterback. So I think they kind of doubled up on him instead of just one of them staying where he was at. But I don't remember.
You're fine. But yeah, I was going to say in that situation, it's kind of a lose-lose for the DB in that situation. But yeah, I agree. The quarterback play and the positive I'll say, like you were talking about, was the coaching. I don't think there was a instance where I went, well, that really wasn't the smartest thing. Well, and kind of echoing off what you're saying, when Willie Taggart was at Western, the first year he came in, I believe he lost like 4 in a row, and then he had to win. And then I think the only loss he had after that was LSU. So there's still kinks to work out in this system. I think.
You're talking about the second year.
Is that the second
That
year?
was the second year he was here. The first year was 6 losses.
Okay, there you go. So I mean, and then the second year he was here, we were bowl eligible, but we didn't get the call. But so there's still kinks in the system. You still got stuff to work out. The coaches are going to
But the upside compared to Sanford is so much better, in my opinion, because seeing some of the stuff that he was running with the offense, it does bring back those flashbacks of when Braum was here, like all of the all the movement with the receivers, and even the trick plays that he ran. I mean, if one of those would have worked, then it would have been incredible. It's just it's early, and you're trying to run all of these kind of new plays for these guys to do. I mean, it's a lot to take in. So as the year progresses, I expect them to definitely lock in and tighten up with that kind of stuff.
Is it bad that I felt it was very pedestrian to run the reverse, though?
Yeah, kind of, a little bit.
When he did it, I was like, that's fine. That's a fine play call, but it was like, what are you doing?
I was expecting a wide receiver pass on one of those.
I was, too. I'll give you that. I was, too. I was waiting for that. But I think he did pretty good. Jake, what do you think the low was, buddy?
I mean, for me, just being super pessimistic, it was the Duncan inconsistency. Him trying to force it was just not good. I will say that I did like Dowdy's commentary.
Yes, I forgot about that, but yes.
Yeah, which was pretty awesome. Because again, he's not a very. I think is this the first time he's done a call of a game?
As far as I know, it is.
Yeah.
So it definitely. So you could tell he was uncomfortable when he started, as far as talking and not just talking, but having fun, cutting up. He doesn't. He's not with Cass. He doesn't want to call.
I completely agree. I think he was just kind of sitting in the corner going, "Hey, that was a screen pass," or something.
The cool thing is once I got in the flow of the game, and they're like, "Oh yeah, this guy ran this offense." He knows what the hell's going on.
Exactly.
He legit ran this offense. He ran this one. Not an offense. He ran this offense with a few twists. So,
well, I will say, and I know a lot of you guys may have agreed with this and disagreed. There was a lot of play calls that he would have considered conservative because they were like, well, what are you going to do here? And Dowdy's like, oh, you go for it. You throw for the end zone.
Yeah.
And I was like, what?
Take the shot.
Yeah.
That's another thing you reminded me is that I was hoping that Duncan would take a few more shots deep. That's just something that I kind of noticed. I remember Helton talking about in his press conference when he was hired, is that they're going to kind of have some of that air raid offense and gun it out. But I didn't really see a whole lot of that on Thursday.
There were some of the deep passes, but I don't know if it was Duncan feeling nervous about, already throwing the 2 interceptions, or, I don't know.
You gotta have a short memory as a quarterback, though.
Yeah, you do. But deactivating your Twitter account does not sound like a short memory to me.
Ouch.
Just saying.
I don't blame him.
I don't blame him either, because I know how stupid people can be.
Yeah.
So
people are really dumb online.
Yeah,
Always.
and Twitter can be the hateful place, so,
Dumpster fire of the internet.
Completely agree. Jared, I'll give you the floor for your little, speaking of rants, I guess.
All right, yeah. Just briefly, I just kind of want to touch on something that I've already seen, speaking of the dumpster fire that is the internet, is all the people that are kind of already giving up on this season just because we lost the first game to an FCS school again. And while that's obviously a bad thing, that doesn't give you an excuse to not support this team anymore, because we want to keep our football program for sure. There was somebody that wrote an article for the Herald today that came out talking about how we should just cut the football program. And seeing stuff like that, it infuriates me because, that's disrespectful to all of the coaching staff. That's disrespectful to all the players and the parents that are so glad to see their kids get this opportunity to get not only a college education, but to be able to play for a college football team. That's just a really stupid thing to say, and they should feel ashamed. But I feel more ashamed with the Bowling Green community because they need to come and support these guys regardless of how this year turns out. Because I think the upside with Helton and his coaching, it is going to be good. And honestly, a lot of y'all don't have any excuses because you can support a football team and then be bad. Trust me, I know what that's like. I've been a Miami Dolphins fan for the majority of my life. And I know y'all are Tennessee Titans fans too, most of y'all. They aren't that good. Newsflash. They're probably not going to make the playoffs this year. Y'all are going to be supporting a terrible football team that costs even more money to go buy tickets for when you could be supporting your local Tops, your alma mater, whatever that is to you. Support Western because they need the money a heck of a lot more than the Tennessee Titans do. You could not be their fan anymore and just not support them anymore. And guess what? They're still going to be raking in the money because they're an NFL program. They're a professional team. Same with Colts fans, too. Andrew Luck retired before the season begins. I mean, y'all don't have anything to look forward to either. So if you're going to support some football, go in with the Tops because I think the upside is still good enough that Hilton's going to turn things around. I mean, it's not going to be overnight. That's one of the things I mentioned in my season predictions. Is that, I mean, Rome wasn't built in a day. The season isn't going to be turned around just overnight either. But that you still need to support the Tops. That's what I'm trying to say here is that go support these guys because when you're in the lows like this, that's when they need it the most. I mean, we had a season where they went 0-12 one year once we joined the FBS, and I know that literally nobody enjoyed that. But if you saw to where they got after that, they were able to become a nationally ranked program when Brom got here. And I never would have believed that when the 0-12 season happened, the 2-12 season happened. But you just got to stick with it, and you just got to roll with the punches because, I mean, like I said, Rome wasn't built in a day. So just kind of trust what's going on and go support these guys because they need it. We don't want to be an embarrassment to not only the Conference USA or the NCAA because there's literally nobody at our football games because, I mean, that's not fair to the players. That's not fair to the coaching staff. That's not fair to the marching band that has nothing to do with how well the football team does that are still trying to do the best they can either. So just go support everybody. It's fun, I promise. I enjoyed the game Thursday, even though we lost. I mean, the entire atmosphere is still great. I mean, it's a fun time, so go see the Tops.
I
Amen.
Completely agree. Amen. Yeah. The only thing, how do you go 2-12? Is what I want to know.
Oh, 2-10. My bad. Sorry.
No,
you know what I
good,
mean?
buddy.
It was the year after we went 0-12.
No, you're good. I was just messing with
And the year before.
Yeah. Those were rough years. I'll say that. But and to kind of echo Jared, it's a mindset. I had my little brother. He goes to Western currently. I mean, he's got free entry into the games, and I was like, "Hey, are you going to the Western game?" And he's like, "Nah, they suck." And I'm like, and I'm going to throw you under the bus, Logan. I don't care. So my thing is, go support the Tops. I mean, you give them time, they're going to do better. They'll, their local team. Why go to UK, U of L?
They're not that good either.
I was going to say Vandy, but they're not any good either.
Last year. And Kentucky, they're not going to be good anymore either because they only have one good season every 30 years. Those are the rules. I don't make it up.
The football god.
But yeah, I agree. Support your local teams. It'll be a lot better off in the outrun if you support local than if you go off and drive to Indianapolis or Lexington or Knoxville, which, God, they're going to have an awful year this year. But anyway. So coming up this week, Western plays Florida International. That's there. That's in Miami. That's in Miami. Okay, so just a little quick tidbit from me. FIU was always fun to go on the road to because it's like little Cuba down there. And there was always Hispanic music. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Matt and Jared are going to go on another road trip. I don't know if Stephanie will appreciate that.
Yeah, buddy, let's do it. Hey, doctor said
it's
we
only
can
an
travel
18-hour
up to
drive,
36
wasn't
weeks,
it?
so we good. Let's go.
So Matt, what do you think are some of the keys for Western to win against FIU?
Yeah, so this is a little sneak peek to my article that should be coming out tomorrow.
There you go.
Shout out to the Red Out listeners. Y'all get to hear it before everybody else. So basically, FIU last week, of course, we know what happened to Western. They lost the FCS team, obviously had some issues. So basically, FIU had the same kind of deal. They got blown out by Tulane. Tulane's supposed to be pretty good, but FIU was especially horrible during this game. So I think both teams are just trying to flush whatever happened last week and move on to this one. And so, like it or not, it's conference time. So both teams had a stinker to start the season. So now it's time to move on. So I see a few things. Number one, Western held UCA. By the way, UCA was supposed to have 2 running backs that were like they're supposed to be absolute monsters. I mean, they really had some good years last year. They're supposed to be better. We held their entire running game to 20 yards,
which is amazing.
Which again which is incredible. That's like Willie Taggart level defensive kind of level there. When they got really good, when they had Dowling and Jackson and all that, it was that good on the run. Now the pass, though, we gave up 404 yards, so obviously gotta shore that up. But anyway, FIU, they gave up 350 rushing yards against Tulane. And Western had almost 200. So to me, obviously, if we can run the ball, control the clock, all that kind of thing, it spells really well for Western. If the defensive line can hold FIU down, that would be a huge bonus. I see the run games as really important. I think one thing about Butch Davis is the coach of FIU. He was at North Carolina, whatever. One thing about his defense is he's kind of opposite of what Western does. Western always tries to stop the run. Devin, you remember, like anytime if you ever asked a coach or player or whatever, what's the goal this week? Oh, we're going to stop the run.
Yep.
Well, that's what Western does. But Butch Davis, like when you look at how his teams play, they try to stop the pass. So last year, FIU basically gave up an even amount of rushing yards and passing yards, about close to 200 a game. So giving up 200 yards passing is actually a really good defensive effort. They just, I guess they just let the running backs kind of run loose. So to me, I think it's going to be important for the tight ends and running backs. They need to get at least 100 yards receiving. Kind of tear up the middle of the defense, get the running backs outside, and then kind of frustrate the defense with getting some yards that they don't expect to give up. And I think another point is to win special teams. Obviously, Haggerty was amazing, the Aussie kicker. He averaged 55 yards a punt. FIU last week averaged 39, so that's 16 yards difference. That could make a huge difference in the field position battle, could make up for – but obviously FIU should be – I think they're an 8.5 point favorite or so.
I got 7.5 right now.
They're a decent favorite to win. So Western's going to have to play well. I think that we need to dominate 2 of 3 phases and be pretty close in the third. And I think we can win. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult. I think that's the key is try to tear up their passing defense. If we can move the ball in the air, I think we should be able to move it on the ground.
My thing is, we're just a correction or an update, I guess. Western or FIU's at 7.5 right now, from what I'm seeing.
So we're getting a little bit of money.
Yeah, and the only thing I would say is if I was Coach Helton, I would tell the doctors to pack a couple bags of IV fluid because Gage Walker's going to need it. I would not let that kid come off the field. I'm sorry, especially if they gave up 350 yards against Tulane. I'd be like, buddy, you going back in. Sorry. You better get it going.
I think Moses may be injured. You remember he kind of limped off the field?
Oh, is he? Man.
I think he might be. I mean, I heard it from a source.
Ooh. Scoop McCay here.
But I'll tell you all off the podcast who it was.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, whatever. But maybe. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. But
and
he
played McKinley. Was that who it was? McClendon. Yeah, that's right. The other back a little bit too. And he didn't look bad. He just didn't get as many snaps. I mean, he would be good enough to hopefully give him a breather, maybe.
I didn't. And actually, you talking about backs. Samuel didn't seem to do a lot either.
Yeah, I was surprised by that.
Yeah, he came in. I think
get more run.
Yeah, I thought he would do a lot more. He did okay. I think they had Moses and Gage Walker in a lot more, but.
And McClendon was the third one. That was weird to me that Samuel was fourth.
Yeah, that is kind of weird, unless it was some kind of injury thing or something. I don't know. But kind of echoing what Matt said, they allowed 545 yards against Tulane. 195 passing, 350 rushing. Where Western was at like 424 against UCA. We had 404 passing and 20 rushing. That's allowed. And then total offense, FIU had 267, where Western had 488. So those are really impressive numbers as far as I'm concerned. So, and did I get the right
to me,
numbers
too,
there?
when you give up that many yards, it doesn't matter who the opponent is. Like WKU played Alabama and some of these other like really good LSU, whatever. I don't know if we ever gave up 550 yards to any of those schools. We have had some games that we've given up yards like that, but it's an indication that there may be other issues there besides just you played a good football team.
Yeah,
I think it's more of you've got a deficiency somewhere, and they took advantage of it.
I agree.
I'm just glad to see the run game finally coming back, because I will say under Sanford, I mean, we did not have a run game whatsoever. It was really bad. I think we were like in the bottom of the FBS, either his first or second year with the run game. So I'm just glad to actually see someone get over 100 and something yards. However many Walker finished with was good.
Yeah,
that was a point in my Matt stats that I had. As another article I did this week.
Just a heads
I was
up.
comparing how UCA did to how Western did in the UCA game to how Mike Sanford era was. And Gage Walker had the most yards of any individual rushing yards by 51 yards of anything in the Mike Sanford era.
Good gosh.
And he did it in his first game coming off of being a nickel.
So yes, that's a nickelback. So just to kind of dispute your theory, when Western played Tennessee in 2009, Tennessee had 657 yards against us.
Oh my God!
Yeah. So and that, of course, that was what's his name, Lane Kiffin. So
we had 3 interceptions in the first quarter
and a field goal.
Go Tops!
Oh my gosh! Yeah, I don't
I was in Nashville when that was going on. I was prepping a prep class to take the LSAT.
Yeah.
And I remember I was supposed to be studying because I had like a class like later.
Oh,
I was
okay.
sitting there with it like on my phone, like, damn it.
So when we played Nebraska, they had 536. I'm kind of skimming, so just Kentucky in 2010 they had 482. So there's several yards there. So Jake, what do you think some of the keys to success would be for Western versus FIU?
Well, I mean, it looked like they couldn't do a lot offensively against Tulane, and I don't know what Tulane's defensive front looks like. Maybe good, maybe not. Honest to God, I have no clue.
By the way it sounds, there's nobody there, but go ahead.
Yeah, right. There's nobody there.
There's just linebackers and DBs, no D-line.
Yeah. But again, if you're able to run the ball like you did against UCA and just able to limit turnovers, like just do not give them free possessions. If you can do that, I think you can actually win the game. 7.5, even with how bad they looked. Because when I was looking at odd sharks today, Bovada had them at 7.5. Some other place had them at 8, but like that 7.5 to 8 range was surprising to me because I thought FIU was supposed to be better than that. And I guess it's all because they teed down their leg against a decent Tulane team. But again, just do what you're good at and don't turn the ball over, and you stand a really good chance of winning. And for the love of God, can our defensive backs stay on their man? Like, just don't play 15 yards off of guys when you're supposed to be on them. Like, can we just not do that?
Well, granted, they could be playing man.
That's something.
They could be playing man, and they could be playing zone. So I don't know. In basketball terms, they could be going in a cover 3 or cover 4 or cover 2 or whatever.
They need to play some 2-3 zone. That's all I gotta say.
There you go. Yeah.
Run the triangle.
Full court press.
So for those
Make
listeners,
them shoot outside.
So for those listeners who are wanting to go to the game, according to ESPN and Vivid Seats, you can get tickets as low as $3.
Probably because
by the way, FIU is going to record the game as like 17,000 people there. There's going to be about 85.
I was going to say there's going to be like
including
3
the
people.
Players on the sideline.
including
Nice.
players.
Nice.
Their team just went home because of the hurricane. Like, screw it.
Exactly. That's what I told my wife. She's like, we were talking about going away for the weekend or something, and she's like, well, where would you want to go? And I said, Florida. And she's like, there's a hurricane. And I said, hey, there's nobody there. We'll be fine.
Hey, not at the Panhandle, though. It was fun.
Yeah, see, there you go.
Go
Jared.
see Willie T.
Yeah, exactly. So, Jared. So, Jared, what are your keys to success against FIU?
I think the biggest thing is just don't turn the ball over, please. I feel like if Duncan didn't have those 2 interceptions, or even just take one of them away, I mean, that gives you the chance of potentially getting another score in and hopefully not, at least making it a little harder for the other team that they have to score a few more points than. I mean, you got to buy your defense a little bit, especially if the secondary is going to be a little porous to start the season. Like, you definitely want to try to light up the scoreboard and get a bunch of scores in. But I want to see Duncan play a lot better because I don't want to be one of those people that overreacts, but if he looks like trash at FIU, then I'm going to start being the kind of person wanting to see either Story come in and get some snaps, or preferably Thomas. That's who I want to see. But, I mean, I know that's probably not going to happen. But at least Ty Story. I mean, if Duncan doesn't look like he's going to be good enough to start, then he doesn't need to. Just point blank, period. I mean, I want us to win a few games, and I know that Duncan had some good moments. He had some good moments on Thursday, and I want to see him have a really, really good game on this Saturday. But please, just hold on to the ball. Don't have any really, really bad interceptions because...
Here's something we didn't really talk about that stands out to me. Lucky Jackson needs to help out Stephen Duncan because there was the one interception that Lucky kind of fell down. It almost looked like he just kind of gave up and was like, oh, he's not going to catch it. And then the guy picked it off.
Yeah.
And he only had 3 catches for, I think, 14 yards. If Lucky could be who he probably should be and get near 100 yards every game, Western's offense goes from being obviously a lot better than they were, but still just kind of good, pretty good maybe, to being almost elite because he's in my mind, he's the one guy that has the experience and has shown that he has the chops to get 130 or 40 yards a game. He's done that before when Mike White was here, but he didn't really do it last year. He needs to step up and make something happen. He's a senior, and he needs to be a leader for the receivers, and I think it would help out Stephen Duncan.
I agree. I think he had a flat game. I mean, everybody has a bad game every now and then.
So it was one of his worst as a topper.
I've got to talk about Lucky Jackson because to me he has been routinely the most disappointing offensive player, at least for wide receivers, that we've had in years.
Okay.
I remember when he was supposed to take that big step forward. Everybody's like, look, when he's like the number 3 option, Taywan leaves. I'm like, okay. He's going to be our guy. He's going to be the one who's going to lead the team in receiving interceptions. And he did, but he did it poorly. Like he did not live up to everything that everybody thought, and that's fine. Maybe you don't. Maybe it just doesn't pan out, and that's cool. But I think the point, like Matt's like, yeah, he needs to. I don't think it's happening. I think that we just have. I know he's had moments when he had 120, 130 yard games, but for the most part, when he's been asked to be a leader and step up and actually make plays, he does exactly what Matt said. He just has kind of either given up or hasn't made the play when he needed to. So for me, at this point, I mean, you obviously still target him. You still give him opportunities. But if Lucky Jackson is the key to our receiving core moving forward, then we are, in my opinion, absolutely hosed. I mean, I'm sure he's a great kid, but he just has not lived up to the hype. And maybe we overhyped him. That's totally, maybe we've been unfair to the guy, and he's not. He doesn't have the talent that we thought that he did, and that's fine. But for me, he has been he has disappointed me every season that he is supposed to have been a leader.
I don't think that's. I agree. His numbers haven't been there, and I haven't seen what he is like behind the scenes. But I don't think it's fair to kind of make a wide receiver shoulder a leadership role because that's more of a quarterback's job. His job is just to go out there and catch the ball.
Your core, though.
Yeah, but
but he doesn't do that either. He doesn't catch the ball, and he doesn't seem to But I mean, maybe he's great in the locker room. Only the coaches can say.
Yeah, and his wide receiver fellow players can attest to that. But I don't know. It's one of those assumptions. But I agree. I think he needs to step up his play a little bit. I agree. But at the same time, a concern of mine going into FIU is we had 2 interceptions against UCA, and now FIU is supposed to be a pass defense expert or whatever. So that concerns me as far as moving into this next game. I almost think we should adapt a Navy approach and just run it until they think we're just going to run it and then throw it.
RPO for days.
Yes.
Army triple option.
Stephen Duncan 2 for 3.
Yes.
85 yards.
Yes, I'm fine with that. I don't care.
2 touchdowns.
Yes.
1
completely
interception.
fine with that. Yeah. Yeah, 2 for 3. He had 2 interceptions and a touchdown. Yeah.
Rushing touchdown. Okay.
I just we'll see how everything goes. But I do want to let everybody know, all our listeners, to take a step back off the edge. I know a lot of people have been going crazy on Facebook and Twitter and all that about how awful the tops are going to be and yada, yada, yada. So we're going to take this time to make fun of all you goofballs who are standing on the edge. Some of the hot takes that we have read, one of them that I saw in particular was someone on Facebook, and I want to say it was maybe the football group, said that we should get rid of WKU football and only have the basketball team. I just want to let you know how ridiculous that is.
Can we flog them?
I wish.
Yeah.
I wish we could put them in stocks.
No, like bringing back tar and feathering people, because they would deserve that.
We should be able to put
medieval
them in stocks.
torture that person, man. They deserve it.
Yes, we should be able to put them in stocks and be able to throw cabbage at them like in those old movies. But it's so ridiculous. If you go by the numbers that ESPN says was at the game, there was 17,000 plus people at the game for Central Arkansas. I don't know what the average ticket cost right now. I don't know how much it costs.
I think it's anywhere between 25 to upwards of maybe 55. 25
to 55, and that's not counting the Hank Wilson Party Zone. So, let me see, 17,000 on my handy-dandy calculator here. Times, you said 20 to 55, so I'll say 40 for average is about $680,000. That's for one home game, guys. That's $680,000 that goes into the university. I'm sorry, I just don't feel like that's justification to cut the program.
Well, you also got to take out the $350K we had to pay UCA, so it's closer to half that amount.
Okay, so you're
still
looking
cutting
the
football program.
I'm just saying.
You're still looking at $330,000 or so, and not counting paying employees and for those
and
also chicken strips and all that stuff. So yeah,
chicken strip. Oh, that's Sonic.
But I just think that's an awful hot take. I think that's ridiculous. One hot take that I did agree with was that a gentleman, and I'm sorry if I don't have your name and everything pulled up right in front of me right now, his thought was that Western should play a big team first game of the year and that be it. And I was like, that's not a bad idea. Instead of playing an FCS team we could lose to, playing a really good team first of the year and get the money. And I can't argue with that.
Yeah, I would take playing Alabama and getting our rear ends absolutely obliterated and get $1.9 million every season than play some FCS school that you don't really gain much from playing other than disappointing your fans at the beginning of the season.
Okay, so, wow.
like a sonar going in the background.
I know, right?
Somewhere.
Hey, sorry, fellas. I'm right here on the bypass in Bowling Green.
I was about to say, he's open on 31, just hanging out.
That's what it is. He's sitting out in the parking lot. Another hot take, which I'm like, just calm down, is WKU football is ranked 130 out of 130 in the USA Today rankings. Rock bottom. Okay. First off,
and on Tom Fernelli's bottom top 25, Western was number 8, so they technically weren't the worst team on his rankings. So
I mean, it's the first game.
Go Tops!
Yeah, I know, right? Go Tops!
Georgia Southern was number 1.
I will say one of the funniest things I read was one of the comments. This lady said how many teams are there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
130.
somebody else said, at least we made the poll. I'm like, come on, people. There's only like 130.
No.
It's like 131 in there.
130.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my gosh, okay. So, just calm down. It was
See, that
one
needs to
game.
be Hilton's next
Hey,
goal.
I
He's
gotta-
working his way out of the bottom
Go ahead,
25.
Okay, Jared, one more time, buddy.
I said that should be Hilton's main goal, is working his way out of Tom Fernelli's bottom 25 list. I think that's a good start, because once you get out of it,
Yeah.
that takes a little heat off, and then people aren't paying attention anymore, and then things are as it is. But I have a couple of hot takes as well from the Hot Takes account on Twitter at Cold WKU Takes. For sure you follow it, because I'm always roasting random people for being mad online, and it's a beautiful art. Of course, one of my favorites I'd like to point out, this is about as ice cold as you can get. I don't know if they were being serious. I kind of don't want to know. It's very questionable and makes me question it a lot. But the WKU connection said WKU puts 80 points up versus Central Arkansas when the Roost was asking for their biggest Week 1 prediction. And that was really bad. And you should feel bad.
Oh, my gosh.
But the worst one is that there's already
Did they
someone
really do
calling
that?
for...
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Credible
They actually tweeted
publication.
it. It's on the account. You can look at it. But Z Kaffenberger was tweeting out the hashtag Fire Hilton, hashtag WKU, repeatedly right after the game was over. And I was like, that's probably a little bit of an overreaction. And as it stands right now, I'm doing a little bit of empirical data for this beautiful account. 314 votes so far. I asked, will WKU finish the regular season with a winning record? 60% say no, 15% say 6-6, and 25% say that they believe that Western can finish with a winning record. So there's some of your hot takes, and just seeing where people are at this point of the season. And yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, Matt, go ahead with what your thought was a second ago, buddy.
Yeah, so I was just going to take a shot at middle.
Go ahead.
There was this.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
Hey,
It's always welcome
always.
here.
So there's this dude on Twitter. I forgot about this, but
DJ.
I just remembered when we were talking about stuff. His name is
I forgot he
Jonathan,
existed.
son
Oh,
of
I thought you were thinking
Emborough or
somebody
something
else.
like that, like Murfreesboro. And he's got a profile picture of him in a blue shirt with ducks on it. So I don't know what that's about, but anyway, he said, I think it was him or somebody, some middle fan, whatever. They said, and I quote, "You lost to a 2-10 team that was in the Sun Belt last year." That is all around false and completely inaccurate. You're an idiot. They were 6-5, and they were in the FCS. So you're an idiot.
There we go. Yeah.
Once again, freaking middle, being middle.
I think he was talking about Georgia State.
Yeah, but how are they
Nah.
2-10?
Yeah, I don't get that at all, but that's...
Yeah, that could have been. I don't know, but anyway, I was tagged in it. Whatever. They were talking about us. They're dumb.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's just straight,
I don't expect much from them. It's okay.
straight biddies. I'm
I
sorry.
mean, seriously, straight biddies.
Straight biddies.
See, MTSU fans are those people, and you see them say stuff online, you're just like, bless your heart.
That's right. Yeah.
Bless your heart.
Bless them.
I'm gonna
Bless
switch
them.
my allegiance to the Big Orange.
That's another thing.
That was another good one. I'm sorry. That's a great, great post.
But what does that say about middle is that your biggest fan decided to switch up on you and become a Tennessee fan after they lost to Georgia State to start their season. What does that say about you, MTSU?
But not only that, but that guy talks so much crap all the time. Like I said, the reason that I forgot he existed was because I muted him on Twitter because I could not stand listening to the guy talk out of his butthole every 2 minutes. I was like, this dude is a special kind of stupid. I'm just mute. Goodbye.
It takes a lot to mute for Jake to mute you on Twitter, apparently. So,
Dude, seriously though. No, I will say I try because I use Twitter to communicate, keep up with news, and say fun things. But I heavily curate the Twitter so that I don't see stuff that pisses me off. Everybody's like, "Oh, Twitter's this dumpster fire terrible," and it's just like you gotta.
Jake is the dumpster fire. Is the dumpster diver. So yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, well, first off, it doesn't bother me. But if something does bother me, I'm just I have a choice in whether or not I acknowledge your existence. mute. Like, you're dead to me. Goodbye. It's a fun game to play.
Yeah, it's fun to mute people. Too bad you can't do it in real life.
Dude, it's only click, mute.
So, jumping in the mailbag real quick, coming from the WKU football page, Ross from Tulsa says, where was Gage Walker at the last 2 years? The bench.
Corner.
Yeah, he was playing defensive back with quotes there. Yeah. I mean, and it's common for players to switch positions, so it's not that big a deal, if there is a need or if a coach sees that. And props to Tyson Helton for going, hey man, we're putting you on offense. We're not letting you play DB anymore. Fletcher asks, why is Sam wrong about his hat takes? Okay, so first off, that's an inside joke for the towel rack. Sam, who is the KSR hack in Stanford, or Coach Sanford.
Damn tree.
I know, right? Coach Sanford, sympathizer. He has these awful takes apparently about WKU's baseball hats. And sadly, I agree. I hate the hats. Is it bad? I'm not a big fan.
Okay, but do you hate the logo or do you hate flat bills? That's two separate things.
No. I hate the logo. I don't like the logo. I liked the old Washington Nationals logo, as far as I'm concerned.
See, yeah, you're going to get chewed out by Fletcher on the line of the group chat a little bit. Thanks for being a part of the towel rack.
Yeah, okay. I'll just wait for my severance package. So, Jared, do you approve of the new hats? And do you understand Sam's complaints?
I mean, first of all, I couldn't care less about baseball. Like, the fact that people pay money to go see baseball blows my mind. But that being said, I think the hats are kind of cool. Like the vintage look stuff, I mean, I'm always a supporter of that. I mean, get you some vintage Western looking gear. I think it looks pretty cool. But see, I have more of a grievance with baseball than I do the hats. And I think that's more of a hot take than anything that he says about the hats.
I don't blame you. Jake, what do you think about the logo?
Dude, I freaking love the logo. I'm not a huge flat bill. Like, I get all the youngins are into flat bills, and that's fine or whatever. But dude, I freaking love old logos. Like last year, without question, we should have done one at Flying W, like old school.
Yeah, that was sick.
I love all of the old stuff. I like the old, like, creepy hand holding a towel. It's like overdrawn. It's like an actual illustration. Like, I love that logo. I mean, I love all the old crap. So bring back scary carpet monster Big Red for a game or two.
Oh my gosh!
That's what I'm talking about. Remember the first Big Red? It looked like he hadn't slept in like 9 weeks because he's on a really, really hard bender. Like, yeah, give me that Big Red.
He looked I will say, he looked starved and ragged. He looked like the Big Red you find at the Humane Society.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
it was really scary.
Yeah.
That's actually how he originally got the job.
That's what it was,
the Humane Society.
They found him at the Humane Society. And Santa Claus brought him in the 1970s, yes. Dennis Martin says, absolute horrible loss, lackluster, and inexcusable. I would rather schedule another very tough team on the road, get the money, and lose anyway. And that's what we
That was your guy that you were talking about earlier.
Yes.
Dennis.
Yeah, I should screen these before I start reading. So anyway, that's all our mailbag questions. If you want to throw us a question, you can email us. You can go to our Facebook page and click the link, and it'll send us messages and all that good stuff, and we'll answer them on air.
Yeah, you guys know how all that stuff works.
Yeah. You're listening to the podcast, catching us on iTunes, Podbean, and YouTube if you want. Speaking of, so a funny thing for you all, in the past year, we have gotten downloads from Saudi Arabia, Australia. I think one of the latest ones was Poland. Yes, no joke. I love talking about this stuff. It's horrible listening, but I don't care. Let me see. Let me pull up all time. Yes, so we have 87 downloads from our friends in Saudi Arabia. We have one download from Switzerland. I'm sorry. I said Poland. It's Switzerland. Yes. We do have one download from Poland. I'm sorry. And we have 2 downloads from the UK. And Australia has 2 downloads. So, love you listeners. Keep calling at us. We will keep answering your questions. So, for our final segment tonight, one thing, Jared hit on it a little bit earlier, was that the Georgia State coach, after beating Tennessee, they asked him his favorite memory, was it beating Tennessee? And he said, no, it was beating Western in the bowl game. So, that was not our best memory for Western, obviously. So, we'll just kind of go around the horn here and hit our worst memories at Western. Jared, I'll let you go ahead and start, just in case you got to run, bud.
Well, I mean, the last two home openers that we had have definitely been really bad, losing to Maine and then losing to UCA this year. But, I mean, if you look at all time, some of the worst losses, I mean, I look especially on the basketball side of things. I mean, last year, the team that we had losing to Troy was really, really, really bad. Losing to them at home was pretty inexcusable. Same with the other two schools they lost to on the road, like Indiana State, Missouri State. Hopefully they can get that fixed before next year. But, like, all time looking at different losses, I mean, there's so many. I mean, that's the worst part is that, I mean, when you're a fan, like, thankfully Jake understands this, is that I'm the glass is half empty kind of guy. Usually I'm always able to remember the bad things that happen more than the good things for whatever reason. But, I mean, just the ones to look at. Yeah, the Troy loss was really bad. That was really, of course, the Marshall loss last year in the Conference USA title game still makes me really depressed. I mean,
but
I'm sad now.
Is that loss as bad as the loss, what was that, 2 years ago when the ball went in and out and in or whatever against Marshall?
Oh, yeah, that was... Mm-hmm.
That one was pretty rough. I mean, the one last year was rough, but the one before that was even worse.
Yeah.
They have a picture of the players looking at the rim and the ball is inside the bucket and it somehow came out. Like it was halfway
rigged.
down.
I'm still going to say it's rigged and Marshall cheated. That's what I'm going to say.
Yep.
Because that's always the logical explanation.
So we're just going to have to sacrifice a virgin to the basketball gods come basketball season is what I'm hearing. So,
absolutely.
Matt, what's your worst memories, bud?
All right. I had two. One was, they're both personal. One has a funny story to it. So the first one was the loss against Indiana State in 2011.
Yes.
That was like right after, Willie T broke the streak, and then we come in that year, and we started out 0-4, and that was the last. I think it was the last. No, it was the second to last loss before we went 7-1 the rest of the season. And I mean, basically, I think Dowdy got hurt in that game.
Yes.
He was a redshirt freshman. He had won the job at Navy.
Yes.
And then practiced that week. Then he blows out his ACL.
I want to say that was first play, too.
They started the game, and the ambulance got called after the first play. It was just like a complete disaster, and we lost by, I think, 4 touchdowns. That was number one. Number two was, I hope I'm not stealing anybody else's, but I've got a really funny story. The power play against ULL in basketball, where Tim McDonald got fired and everything. So, first of all, if you don't know the story, basically somehow Lafayette had 6 players on the court, and they inbound the ball and scored and win the game, and nobody noticed, and the officials took off the court, and then that night, Ken McDonald got fired. So I was trying to be nosy because I felt like something was going on back there. Like they blocked off, because I was in the band, so I was going back to put my tuba away, and they were like, "Can't come back here." And I'm like, "Well, why not?" And I was like, "That's weird." And so I had to go around and go by the girls' locker room, put my stuff in, and I'm trying to find a way to kind of like go past and see what's going on. So I'm just trying to walk past, and anyway, it ended up being Craig Biggs, which I didn't know who he was.
You don't remember
but
Craig?
I was an equipment manager, whatever, for the football team. But I was like, he doesn't know who I am. And so he's like, "Can't go back here. You got to go around." And I'm like, "Well, why?" And he's like, "You just need to go around or whatever." And so I get pretty upset. And I turned around, and this was pre-Jesus. So you can
change. You changed.
Anyway, I turned around, and it was just one of those things. I was getting pissed and stuff, and I just flipped him the bird over my shoulder. And
You pulled a Rick Pitino.
and he's
Okay.
like, how dare you, all this stuff, especially with who you are and all this stuff. And I'm like, how does he know who I am? And then Ross Bjork comes around the corner,
Oh,
and I had just been
Nice.
talking to him by email about some stuff and whatever, and he's like, what's going on? And I'm like, uh-oh. And so it turns out Craig Biggs was the boss of my boss.
Yep.
Ross Bjork was
Nice.
standing right there seeing the whole thing. And so basically, that was the story of me flipping the bird of the boss of my boss, and then Ken McDonald got fired. Miserable memories.
That is hilarious.
Maybe perhaps
ever
when I
find out
never
why you
got a
couldn't
job
go
at
their way?
Western. I'm just saying.
So, so
Did you
Jared.
ever find out why you couldn't go over there?
Well, it was because they were in the middle of firing him. I mean, they didn't want anybody to know.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, that's why Ross was there and all that kind of stuff, because they were, like, letting him know, like, you're done. So,
That's hilarious.
Which that's not his fault, though. I mean, losing with 6 men on the court. I mean, that's an official's fault, not his. But I mean, if you
well,
look
the
at his whole
attendance was
season,
1,850, so that was his fault.
Yeah, I think that there were other factors that played into that, but yes, I agree.
It was sort of like at the end of Sanford's time. I mean, he won his 2 games, and there was like that article from Bowling Green Daily News saying if he wins his last 2 games, he'll keep his job. And yeah, no, he did not.
Yeah, that was really bad. That was really
Well,
bad.
if you look at the numbers for the UTEP game last year, I think it literally was like 30. It was like, I think it was less than 4,000 people were at that game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like
It was
actual attendance. So
that's
that's a
crazy.
disaster.
Jake, what is some of your worst memories at Western, buddy? Well,
Okay, so I'll do.
not necessarily personal, just so we throw that out there.
Yeah, no, I'll do a sport one. That just I remember exactly where we were at, what I was doing. I had it was one of those. I think everybody has a summer or like a year in college where you're like, oh yeah, this feels like college. And I had moved out. I had moved onto campus because I was like that, but I was a commuter for a lot of school. I drove, from EFE every day. So we finally got our apartment. We got this crappy apartment on Adams Street next to some drug dealers. They're really nice guys. It's great.
Yeah. They hadn't moved to
nice
Kentucky
guys.
Street yet, so it was good.
No, I had moved to Kentucky Street. This is what Adams Street was where it was at. Funny enough, there was a business across the street from us. If you guys know, if you're going down Adams Street next to the railroad tracks, on the left from our Adams Street apartment, or on the right as you're going towards campus, there was this business and all these pallets that were currently stacked. And the only thing that ever happened was these trucks would go in and drop off pallets and then leave. Yeah, turns out they were a drug front. They got busted while we were there. We used to joke about that, sitting on the stoop all the time. But
That's awesome.
sure enough, they were. Yeah, so, a really good neighborhood is what I'm getting at. But we were sitting in that crappy little apartment that spring watching the Kansas Western first round game in the NCAA tournament and just, watching Fant foul out and that being the reason or, main reason why that team was not the first 16 to upset a 1 and missing out on that bit of history was just absolutely one of the most gut-wrenching things, sports-wise, that I've ever seen with Western. I mean, and again, it's a tournament, everything's great, yay. I think that was...
Hey, I was there. I thought it was great.
5 minutes.
Good memories.
Yeah, but I was just like, hey, we're this close. And so that was really sad, but a personal one that's funny that actually doesn't involve drinking, funnily enough. So, and this one just makes me look like a tool, and it was awesome. So, do you guys remember...
So, Jake, think carefully before you tell this story so I don't have to edit it later.
Oh, no, you don't have to edit this one. This one's fine. This is me being dumb. It was funny. So, do you guys remember when you used to have to go, you took a music class or something, you had to, go watch a performance, right?
Yeah.
I had to do that 14 times a semester. I know exactly what you're talking about.
That's great.
Jared was a music major.
Yep.
Yeah, so I went and saw, I think it was through the Chinese flagship, some Chinese opera thing. It was really weird, but it was the end of the semester and I had to go do it. So, sit down, not paying attention, on my phone, whatever. I was that guy. But I was sitting next to a really cute girl who I began to talk to and hit it off with really well. And it turns out we were walking the same way we left and we're talking, everything was great. I'm like, yep, I'll I'm gonna ask this girl to go get coffee sometime. This is gonna be great. But for some reason, I thought it would be cool to, instead of being like, hey, can I get your number so we can go out to coffee? Would you like to go out to the coffee sometime? I was like, hey, we should get some coffee sometime. Here's my number. But instead of just like putting it in her phone like a normal person, I handed her my business card from like my fraternity being on the exec council. Like just handed a card.
Yep, you thought you were being
And it
cool.
was like, oh, dude, it was like, and it was 2 seconds. I was like, oh, that was a mistake. And from this chick again. And it was just so funny because like, it was like, yeah, that was, she's going to get back to that sorority house in about 6 minutes, and they are going to laugh about this for like the entire night.
Yep.
And it was like, yep, and they sure did.
Yep.
That was a real bad memory.
Regrets.
Yeah. So mine are basically football related. So back in 2007, this will be a fun story for you. I was still a greenie.
Pre-Jesus.
Yes, well, no, I've been with Jesus for a long time. But anyway, we were playing Florida, number 6 Florida at the time. It was first big SEC road trip I'd ever been on. And so I think Florida. You could still find this. Matt, you can relate. Whenever you go to a bigger stadium like this, and there's like 75, 80,000, 90,000, 100,000 people in the stadium, it is just, I mean, you just kind of lose concentration because there's so many people. Like, you can't even hear yourself think. So it was, Tebow was there and all that good stuff. So we're sitting there, and I'm standing on the sidelines, and first time out, okay, I was in La La Land. I don't know where the hell I was. I'm not even going to lie. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know what I was doing. I was just sitting there on the sideline watching the game. And all of a sudden, I hear Coach Ellison screaming, "Water! Water!" And I was like, God. So I go sprinting out there with my bottles and everything. I mean, they were coming to the sideline, but still, I was just like, oh my gosh. Oh, even makes it even better.
Ellison would embarrass you, man.
Oh my God,
if
yes,
you screwed up, he would just straight up call you out.
Oh yeah, well, I don't know.
Some of them wouldn't.
I don't know if this was him.
Would.
I don't know if this was him or if this was just ESPN. I don't know, but it ended up on ESPN. So like recapping, no kidding. So recapping against Western, the little team Western coming in to play Florida, yada yada yada. And they're showing him on the sidelines, and all you hear is him screaming, "Water! Water!" And I'm like, oh, my God.
Wait, no, go ahead. I want to see if this is right. Go ahead.
So another big one for me was, I think it was 08 or 09 when we played Kentucky. Yes, I think it was 2008. So we're running on the field, and we had to take some of these little trunks. I say little. This trunk was probably like 2.5 foot by like 3 foot. I mean, it's huge. And so I was trying to be a gentleman because I worked with a bunch of girls. And I was like, hey, I'll pack that one on the field. So the trainers always ran out last. So we're running down through there, and I'm behind my boss at the time. And she jumps the pylon. Okay, in high school, we had pylons. They just had sand in the bottom. You just kick the thing out of the way. You go on. I thought I'd be funny. I'd kick it. Okay, so Kentucky, they don't have sand pylons. They have metal rods through their pylons.
Oh, no.
So I kicked that thing. It's stuck in the ground. It had to have been like 8 foot down in the ground. So I kicked this thing, and I tripped because that thing ain't moving. So I trip. I did a front somersault. The trunk goes rolling down along the field. I was like, oh my Jesus, okay. And so it was seen by the entire stadium because they were filming us as we ran on the field. So yeah, that was another bad memory.
Oh man.
So a couple other real quick ones. 2007, this is just the score. North Texas, we lost 27-26.
Was that the Sledgehammer game?
No, that wasn't the Sledgehammer game. That was before I got there, but that was the game we got in a fight. Western and North Texas got into it.
Somebody pulls out the sledge.
Okay, that was okay. So let me tell that real quick because
That was the one with the helmet, wasn't it?
no, what happened at North Texas was it was a back and forth. We got a bunch of unsportsmanlike, yada yada yada. They got a bunch. Into the game, they beat us by 1 point. We go through the handshake line, and they start talking smack. So, of course, it's a miserable, miserable weather. First time I'd been to Texas. And so my first thought is, I'm ready to get out of this effing place, okay? I am tired of Texas. Forget this place. I hate it. It's 32 degrees, it's raining, and it's snowing. So I turn around, I walk over to the bench, and I start pouring out my water bottles. Just dump, 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 dump. Well, I notice nobody else has come off the field. And I was like, what is going on? Me not paying attention. I had basically all my clothes I had packed on because it was so cold. I turn around and look, and basically on each side of the 50, Western's on one side, North Texas on the other, and the coaches are in the middle trying to get them all back. And I bet they were about 2 to 3 seconds away from an all-out brawl. And it was crazy. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I was just standing there watching. Of course, they ended up get them all off the field and all that stuff. But the story with the sledge, history lesson for all you Topper listeners. The sledge was against, I want to say it was Southern Illinois when we were in the OVC. Western and Southern Illinois had been talking a lot of smack during the game. Western was down most of the game. Comes into the last few minutes in the fourth. Western kicks a field goal, wins the game. As they're going through the line, shaking hands at the end, Western's talking smack, Southern Illinois is talking smack, somebody takes a swing. Both sidelines cleared. And as Matt and some of the other people know who are with football, Western's symbol for the defense was the sledge. They carried that thing everywhere. Some genius thought it'd be a great idea to take the sledge on the field and start swinging around at people. So, yeah.
It's just a miracle nobody got it.
You're serious? No joke. No joke. Was that OVC or was it Gateway? Maybe Gateway.
Probably Gateway.
I think it was the Gateway. Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. It was the Gateway Conference. But
wow.
Yes. He brought the sledge out. So for those of you who do not know, when you played in the Gateway Conference, both teams had to come out on the field before the flip. You took your team and you went completely down the field. Every player down the field. They walked straight out to midfield. Everybody shook hands. Then you walked back. That was it. It was really crazy.
I didn't remember that.
No, that was pre-Matt.
Well, I mean, I still went to Western games. I don't remember that at all.
You never remembered that? Oh yeah, that was I'm trying to find where it was. I want to say it was Gateway, but yeah, they did that for a while. Yeah, it was. Oh my gosh,
were you there in 06?
Yes, I got there in fall 06.
That would have been Gateway. Yeah.
Yes, that was the Gateway. I'm sorry, that was our last year in the Gateway. It is the Missouri Valley Football Conference now. I just Googled it just so.
That does make sense. Okay.
But yeah, so that's our little history
they got,
lesson.
Southern Illinois and Northern Iowa.
I think it was Southern Illinois though that we got in the fight with. I'll have to look it up to know for sure. But so for those of you listeners that were players or if you were spectating at the time, just comment, let us know, send us a message or whatever, and let us know if we're wrong. I think it is Southern Illinois though. Because we were big rivals back in the day with them, but not anymore. I know, right? So that's all I've got. Do you all have anything else?
Not really.
No, that's all
man.
Hey,
I gotta get home.
Yeah, I was gonna say, hey, Matt, it was great having you on tonight. Great having Jared and everybody else on as usual, but I always enjoy hearing Matt's stats and all your in-depth analysis. So you can check Matt and Jared's pieces out on the Towel Rack, Facebook, towelrackwku.com, and all those good sources. And you can listen to our podcast on Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube. Subscribe, share, do all that good stuff. And as always, guys, go Tops.
Go Tops.
Go Tops.